Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon. Now we have the third part of our item guide. I did kind of the main intro in the first part, so we're just going to get right into the defense items now. Starting off with Sunfire Aegis, it gives you 500 max health and 15 ability haste. Alongside that, when you're in combat, it'll deal damage right around you in like kind of a little circle. That's equal to 16 to 25 plus 0.8% bonus HP magic damage to nearby enemies. Damaging either the champions or the monsters will increase the damage they take by 11% for 5 seconds. So it's going to make people take more damage, and it's also going to deal some damage to them. So it's generally a good item for tank junglers for their kind of clear speed, and for tank champions that just want to have that bit of extra damage in their overall build. Okay, before we move on to Spear Visage, if you're wondering why I skipped over Guardian Angel and those types of items, we talk about those in the physical portion, so we're going to skip over those for now. Going on to Spear Visage, it gives you 350 max health, 100% health regen, 50 magic resist, and 20 ability haste. Alongside that, it increases all healing and shielding effects on you by 30%. So this is really good on champs who heal a lot, such as Darius, other bruisers like that, or if you have a Soraka on your team or someone like that to increase the healing they do to you, as well as obviously shielding as well. And then alongside that, it's going to be good into higher magic damage comps because of that magic resistance as well. Okay, so then we have Randuin's Omen. Basically, this gives you 400 max health, 65 armor, and reduces attack speed of the opponents after they hit you by 15% for 1.5 seconds. Also, you have the Determination passive. Basically, when you are critically struck, you get Determination, which basically will heal you once it gets to a certain amount of stacks once you attack a champion. So you get a certain amount of stacks on it, and then you attack a champion, you get healing. So basically it's an anti-crit item, to put it simply, and it also reduces attack speed, so it's good into auto attackers and crit champions generally, and since it's armor, it's also better into AD champions. Thornmail is the anti-healing item for tanks, gives you 200 max health, 75 armor, and then when an enemy hits you, you deal damage back to them, basically. Alongside this, when they deal damage to you, you apply Grievous Wounds. The way Grievous Wounds works is it applies anti-heal to them, as I said, so into Sorakas, into these types of champions, it's going to be very good. And since you get a lot of armor from this item, it's also quite good into heavy AD comps. Keep in mind, again, the component that actually provides anti-healing is Bramble Vest, so if you need just the anti-healing and you don't want to finish Thornmail until 3rd, 4th, 5th item, get the Bramble Vest early game, and then you can get the rest of Thornmail later on. After that, we have Warmogs. Warmogs gives a lot of HP, 700, alongside 200% health regen, 10 ability haste, and if you have at least 950 bonus health, then you restore 5% maximum health per second if you haven't taken damage within the last 6 seconds. So this item is really good into poke champions, because if they poke you down, you can heal up that poke through the passive really quickly, really effectively. So it's generally going to be good in those types of games. It also has a lot of health, so it's going to be good when you have a lot of resistances, because it's important to keep in mind that you want a balance of resistances and health in every tank build. Then we have Dead Man's Plate, which gives you 250 max health, 50 armor, 5% movement speed, 5% movement speed, and then when you move, you build momentum, similar to how Youmuu's works, which then gives you 40 move speed at 100 stacks. So this is really good on generally just tanky champions who really want to run people down and CC them. So Thresh, Nautilus, Alistar, Leona, these types of champions can all use them really effectively whenever they, 1, need value from the armor, and then 2, want to try running down people in order to catch them out. And it also gives you some magic damage when you end up doing an attack on someone once your stacks get removed on your momentum. So basically, if you have more stacks on your momentum, when you run at someone, deal damage to them, you're going to get some bonus damage as well. So that's important to keep in mind. And then the melee attacks, when you have max momentum, will also slow people. Then we have Iceborn Gauntlet, which gives you 250 max health, 50 armor, 250 mana, and 30 ability haste. So a lot of great stats there. And then it has Spellblade, which means it's the same passive as Trinity Force and Divine Sunder and Lichbane. So using an ability will cause the next attack within 10 seconds to deal bonus physical damage equal to 100% base AD and 25% bonus armor. So it's a good armor stacking item. And then it does this in an area and creates basically a slowing field that is just going to slow the enemy and make it very easy to kill them. So generally, this item is going to be really good on armor stackers with good armor stacking passives. So Thresh passive, Malphite passive, Rammus passive. These types of champions can make the field bigger, because the more armor that you have, the bigger the field becomes. And so again, it's a good armor item and good on armor stackers. Then you have Abyssal Mask, which gives you 300 max health, 40 magic resist, 300 mana, and 10 ability haste. The way that this passive works, you restore mana equal to 15% of the damage that you take. So it's good on champions who really use mana very well. You also regen health equal to 20% of mana spent, capped at 25 health per cast. And then when you receive magic damage, you gain 20%. of that damage taken as a charge, and then when you immobilize someone or CC them, you consume the charge to deal damage. So basically, this is just a good mana item on champions who use the mana well. Oftentimes works well with the mana stacking tank item that we'll talk about later. It's also a magic resistance item, which means it's going to be better, obviously, into AP champions. Okay, next up we have Zeks Conversions, which give you 300 max health, 40 armor, 150 mana, and 10 ability haste. So it's going to be better, obviously, into AD champions due to that armor. And then casting your ultimate surrounds you with a blizzard, basically like a little circle around you, that enhances nearby allies' attacks for 10 seconds. Your blizzard will also slow people by 20%, and your allies' attacks will burn the enemies, dealing additional damage. So this item is generally going to be really good on champions who have an ultimate where they're going to go in with teammates. So say you're playing an Alistar and you're going to ult in, and you know that your teammates are going to dive in you. Like you have a dive comp where a lot of people are going to go forward and they're going to be close to you, diving on one person. That's going to be a type of time where this item's generally going to be used. I don't necessarily love this item most of the time, but it overall is not too bad. And it's also important to mention that when you enhance your ally with the Frostfire Covenant passive, slowing a burning enemy with your Blizzard causes it to deal additional damage as well, and also slow people. So this item can also help slow people additionally. Then we have Protector's Vow, which is 350 max health, 40 armor, 10 ability haste. So again, better into AD comps because of the armor. And then it has a really fun passive where you raise your guard when next to an allied champion, and then if you or the ally take any damage, then you will both receive a shield for 1.5 seconds on a 20-second cooldown. So basically, when you have a really fed carry on your team who you really want to peel for and protect, say you have a really fed Xayah or Vayne or something like that, this item is going to be good for protecting them and causing them to not die so fast. Then we have Winter's Approach, which is the mana immune of tank items. 350 max health, 500 max mana, 15 ability haste. You get bonus health equal to 8% of your max mana, and it refunds 15% of the mana that you spent. It increases max mana by 12 every stack, and then once it gets up to 700, you turn it into Fimbulwinter. Fimbulwinter has the same stats, except it gives more mana with 1200, and then it gives you 10% bonus health as well. And then it also has this passive where if you immobilize or slow someone, you consume 3% of your current mana, and you get a shield. So again, this is going to make you a lot tankier. It's a very, very, very good scaling tank item. I use it a lot on Nautilus. It's my favorite Nautilus item because he utilizes a lot of mana, and he also likes to be very tanky in the late game. So that's generally going to be the time that it's useful. And again, this is going to be one of the health items that you want to go. You kind of typically want to start off on most tanks with this health item, whether it's Heartsteel, Winter's Approach, or Warmogs. Those are usually going to be your initial starting health items. Sometimes you go with a Deadman's or a Randuin's or a Force of Nature in certain scenarios, which we'll talk about later. Then we have Frozen Heart, which gives you 80 armor, so very, very good into attack damage champions, 200 mana, and 25 ability haste. And then when basic attacks and magic damage caused by you or damage to you, apply stacks of chill to the enemy champion, basically meaning that if you get damaged or you deal damage to an enemy, then you will slow their attack speed by 9%, up to 4 stacks of 36% attack speed reduction. So this is amazing into on-hit attack dealing champions, such as Vayne, which these types of champions who auto-attack a lot, but do not always build crit, are going to struggle a lot into Frozen Heart. So that's when Frozen Heart's usually going to be a good item for you. Then we have Force of Nature with 350 max health, 55 magic resistance. This is essentially Deadman's Plate, but magic resistance instead. So it's going to be good into AP champions. Gives you 5% movement speed. And then also taking ability damage from a champion will grant you a stack for 7 seconds, the max going to 4 stacks. And dealing damage to an enemy champion will then refresh the duration of the stacks. And you get 10% movement speed at max stacks, and you reduce all incoming damage by 25%. So it's amazing into a lot of AP champions, and it helps you catch people out similar to how Deadman's does because of that bonus movement speed. Then we have an item which should just never really be used in solo queue. It's really only like a competitive sort of item in this X-Stally Seed Jar. It gives you 425 max health, 25 ability haste, 5% movement speed again, like a lot of these items do. And then basically plants hit by you or your allies will drop a seed, and then you can pick up this seed, and then it replaces your trinket, so your ward, for 60 seconds with whatever you picked up, and then you can place that around somewhere. And so it's going to let you place like blast cones, those things that give vision, you know, these types of things. It's going to let you replace, and it's really not very useful. It can be useful for getting vision and whatever, but in reality in solo queue it's just usually not a very good thing. And again, like I said, you can plant your seed at the targeted location, and then it grows after a second to the full size. but it really just is not a great item. I don't really recommend it overall. Then we have Dawn Shroud, which is 250 max health, 50 armor, and 30 magic resistance. So it gives you all the stats you need. So it's a really versatile item that you can build every game because it's just good into all types of damage. And then if you're within 400 units of an enemy champion and you immobilize them, then you will reveal all the enemy champions for 3 seconds and deal extra damage. So I like this on champions like Thresh or Nautilus as a third or second item to give me all the resistances I need and also help me deal a lot of damage to carry in solo queue games as a tank support. Then we have Twin Guard, which gives you 60 armor and magic resist. So again, gives you stats against both types of people, so it's good when they have mixed damage comps. You gain 1 stack of endurance every 1 second when you're in combat, up to 5 stacks. And then once you get to 5 stacks, so basically once you're in combat for 5 seconds, you get 20% size, which makes you bigger, 20% tenacity, which makes you not get CC'd as easily, and then it increases your armor by 30% and your magic resist by 30%. So this is like by far the tankiest overall resist item that you can have. So when you just want to be a absolute meat shield later on in the game, this is going to be the best time to build this item. Then we have Mantle of the 12th Hour, which is one of my favorite items to build on Thresh, even though most people don't like this item on most champions. It's going to give you, again, kind of like Dawn Shroud, all the stats that you need with the health, armor, and magic resist. And then it gives you a lifeline passive similar to Sterix, where if you go below 35% HP, you get healing from 200 plus 50% bonus health for 3 seconds, and you get 50% slow resist and 30 movement speed for 3 seconds. So I really love this item because it surprises people that usually don't expect it, and it allows you to avoid getting caught out very well. Then we have Searing Crown, which is essentially Sunfire, except it has armor in it. So it's going to give you 300 max health and 50 armor, and then after dealing damage with an attacker ability, you burn someone for 3 seconds, and then you deal 1.4% magic of their target's max health as magic damage per second. And then if you are a ranged champion, it is a bit less. And then it deals 150% damage to minions and monsters, maximum 125 damage. And the reason this is valuable is because it helps with your clear speed a lot. So it's very useful on tank junglers like Maokai, for example, like Rammus, often as a first item to help with your clear speed. Then we have Heartsteel. Heartsteel gives you 700 max health, 150 health regen, and 220 ability haste. And basically the way this works, when you're close to an enemy champion, it will build up a charge, and then once that charge is fully built up, if you auto attack them, you will strike them, gaining dealing additional damage and gaining additional permanent max health. So it's really good on health stackers. Again, it works really well with Hydra, as we spoke about in the previous physical items video. So that's going to do it as a whole for the tank items, guys. If you have any questions in the comments, again, as always, let me know. I know I went through this really fast. That's kind of the goal, is just to give you guys an overview of the items. And if you're super curious about specific builds or anything, let me know in the comments below. I'll see you guys in part 4.